The Kuki Inpi, the apex body of the Kuki tribes, has issued a scathing condemnation of the Central Armed Police Forces stationed in Manipur. The statement comes amidst growing unrest and dissatisfaction within the Kuki community, who feel marginalized and unfairly targeted by the security apparatus. They allege blatant bias and collusion with Meiteis extremist groups, accusing the forces of turning a blind eye to the atrocities committed against the Kuki people. This accusation is not new, but has gained renewed vigor in light of recent events. This comes in the wake of a deeply disturbing incident in Jiribam, where Kuki civilians were apprehended by a joint operation of the Indian Army and Meiteis-dominated state forces. The Kuki Inpi claims that these civilians were innocent and were unjustly targeted. This incident, the Kuki Inpi argues, is not an isolated one. They point to a series of similar events that have occurred over the past few months, each one adding to the growing sense of injustice and alienation felt by the Kuki people. It is a symptom of a deeper malaise, a dangerous nexus that threatens the very fabric of peace in the region. The Kuki Inpi warns that if these issues are not addressed, the situation could spiral out of control, leading to widespread violence and instability. In a powerful show of resistance, the Kuki Inpi has called for a complete shutdown of all Kuki-inhabited areas for 24 hours, starting July 10, 2024. This shutdown is intended to draw attention to their plight and force the authorities to take their concerns seriously. This shutdown is a cry of anguish, a desperate plea for justice, and a stark reminder of the simmering tensions that threaten to engulf Manipur once again. The Kuki Inpi hopes that this drastic measure will serve as a wake-up call to the central and state governments. The Kuki community, it seems, has been pushed to the brink. Their frustration is palpable, and their demands for justice are growing louder with each passing day. The Kuki Inpi's leadership is determined to keep the pressure on until their voices are heard. The question that hangs heavy in the air is this: can there be peace without justice? The Kuki Inpi believes that true peace can only be achieved when the wrongs of the past are acknowledged and rectified. Can there be reconciliation without accountability? The Kuki Inpi argues that without holding those responsible for the violence and discrimination accountable, any attempt at reconciliation will be superficial and short-lived. The Kuki Inpi's condemnation is a wake-up call, a stark reminder that the path to peace is paved with truth and justice. They urge all stakeholders to come together and address the root causes of the conflict, to build a future where all communities can coexist in harmony and mutual respect.
The incident in Jiribam has sent shockwaves through the Kuki community and beyond. The once peaceful streets now bear the scars of violence, with burnt vehicles and debris marking the aftermath of a brutal clash. A group of Kuki volunteers who were actively involved in relief efforts for those displaced by the ongoing violence were apprehended by a joint team of Central Forces and Manipur State Police. These volunteers had been tirelessly working to provide food, shelter, and medical aid to those in dire need. These volunteers, hailed as heroes by their community, were accused of instigating violence and possessing illegal arms. The sudden turn of events left the community in shock and disbelief, questioning the motives behind such accusations. The Kuki Inpi vehemently denies these charges, calling them fabricated and malicious. They argue that the volunteers were only armed with the tools of compassion and aid, not weapons of destruction. Eyewitness accounts paint a chilling picture of the incident. They describe how the volunteers were rounded up without any provocation, their efforts to help the needy abruptly halted. They describe a scene of chaos and brutality, with Central Forces personnel acting in concert with Meiteis state forces to target and detain Kuki volunteers. The air was thick with tension, and the cries of the innocent were drowned out by the sounds of aggression. The detainees were allegedly subjected to physical and verbal abuse, their pleas for justice falling on deaf ears. Their anguish and frustration were palpable, as they were treated not as saviors, but as criminals. This incident has exposed the deep-seated mistrust that exists between the Kuki community and the security forces. The protests that followed were a testament to the community's resilience and their demand for justice. The Kukis allege that they are being systematically targeted and demonized, while Meiteis perpetrators of violence enjoy impunity under the protection of the state machinery. The spokesperson's words echoed the sentiments of a community that feels betrayed and marginalized, calling for an end to the cycle of violence and discrimination.
The Kuki Inpi's allegations of collusion between the Central Forces and Meitei extremist groups are deeply troubling. These claims have sent shockwaves through the community, raising serious questions about the integrity and impartiality of the Central Forces. They claim that certain elements within the Central Forces are actively aiding and abetting Meitei militants operating in Jiribam and other sensitive areas. This alleged support includes providing strategic intelligence, logistical assistance, and even direct involvement in militant operations. This alleged collaboration, they argue, has emboldened these extremist groups, allowing them to operate with impunity and perpetrate violence against the Kuki community. The Kuki Inpi believes that this has led to an increase in attacks, creating an atmosphere of fear and insecurity among the Kuki people. Evidence of this alleged nexus, while circumstantial, is mounting. Reports from various sources suggest a pattern of behavior that points to a deeper, more insidious relationship between the Central Forces and Meitei militants. There have been numerous reports of Central Forces personnel turning a blind eye to the activities of Meitei militants, and even providing them with logistical support and intelligence. This negligence, whether intentional or not, has serious implications for the rule of law and the safety of the Kuki community. The Kuki Inpi points to the Jiribam incident as a prime example of this unholy alliance, alleging that Central Forces personnel acted as willing accomplices in the detention and harassment of Kuki volunteers. This incident has become a symbol of the alleged betrayal and has galvanized the Kuki community to demand accountability. The gravity of these allegations cannot be overstated. They strike at the very heart of the trust that the public places in the Central Forces to act as neutral and fair protectors of peace. If proven true, they would represent a fundamental betrayal of the Central Forces' mandate to maintain peace and protect all citizens, regardless of their ethnicity or religion. Such a betrayal would not only undermine the credibility of the Central Forces, but also exacerbate the already volatile situation in the region, leading to further unrest and violence.
The role of the Manipur state forces in the ongoing violence has also come under intense scrutiny. The Kuki Inpi has accused the state police of being heavily biased in favor of the Meitei community, alleging that they have been complicit in the violence perpetrated against Kukis.
There are widespread reports of police inaction and even collusion with Meitei mobs during attacks on Kuki villages.
Adding another layer of complexity to the situation are the long-standing allegations of links between elements within the Manipur state forces and insurgent groups like the United National Liberation Front, or UNLF. These alleged ties raise serious concerns about the integrity and neutrality of the state police.
The neutrality of the Manipur state forces is paramount to restoring peace in the region. If the Kuki community perceives them to be an extension of the Meitei agenda, it will only serve to deepen the divide and perpetuate the cycle of violence.
The ongoing violence has had a devastating impact on the Kuki community. Thousands have been displaced from their homes, their lives turned upside down by the brutal conflict.
Kuki villages lie in ruins, torched and abandoned, stark reminders of the violence that has ripped through the region. Fear and uncertainty stalk the lives of the Kukis. They live in constant fear of attack, their sense of security shattered by the relentless violence.
The trauma of displacement and the loss of loved ones have left deep scars on the collective psyche of the community.
The Kuki Inpi's condemnation of the Central Forces is a cry for help, a desperate plea for protection from a force they perceive as complicit in their suffering.
For more updates and in-depth coverage, don't forget to subscribe to Zalangam Media.